go from being a newcomer, dreaming of success in the music industry, to selling out arenas all over the world? And are there any lessons that we in the business community can draw from this experience? So our next speakers are going to be here to talk about exactly that and to draw instincts and insights into what it takes to to transition from the most creative industries to the most powerful business industries in the world. Please welcome the co-founder and CEO of sneaker marketplace StockX, Josh Luber, and the one and only Steve Aoki. Steve?
What's up?
Everyone's taking pictures. Should we wait? Well, everyone takes pictures? They're all taking pictures of you. Can you guys send me this picture that I'm in with Steve? We were joking backstage that this is the smallest crowd Steve's ever played to, so we appreciate you guys coming out for it. The topic, I think, is I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, which was the title of Steve's documentary that came out about 3 years ago. And coming up at the end of this year, Steve's memoir is going to come out. So I feel like we're kind of bookended on these two stories of your life and all the just unbelievable and massive amount of things that you do. So let's talk about some of those. Everyone knows you primarily from music, but you're involved in a lot of different streetwear brands. Start there, since that's close to what we do at StockX and everything else, between Dimock, the label, between Vision, Bape. I don't know, what one of those projects are you most actively working on right now from a streetwear standpoint?
I'd say Dimock right now, but I'll do a pre-roll just so people have an idea. So I'm sure you guys know me as a DJ. I'm a music guy. But since we're talking about the fashion side of things, fashion in my world was always merch. When I first got into music, but it was very integral. It was an integral part of what I did musically. So like when I picked up a guitar, a microphone back in the day, because I was in bands before I was a DJ, I picked up a silk screen kit too. So it's like I was learning how to play guitar, but I was also learning how to screen T-shirts. And when you're 15, you don't think of fashion. You're just like screen printing shirts with your friends and selling them for $5 and having fun, and that obviously that transformation eventually leads to thinking about more sophisticated ways to make clothes, and which brings you into the streetwear world or fashion. And as I got older, I just got more interested in that space, and I loved collaborating. I'm definitely known as a music collaborator. I collaborate with K-pop artists, Latin artists, and EDM artists, obviously. But in fashion and in streetwear, that's what I love to do as well. Like working with Bathing Ape, as you mentioned, and having my own line, Dimock, and using Dimock as a platform to collaborate with street artists and fun stuff. And also, being involved in Vision Streetwear, like jumping in that space, co-owning another brand, a legacy brand. And Dimock now in 2019, this is 22 years after I've started my label.
Yes.
The fashion program of the business is very much it's like a new child, because it needs me to help hold its hand and help that business elevate to where it can be on its own. Whereas Dimock, the music business, we have a full floor of a building with 20 people working, doing a great job with its own operator. And I just jump in, make sure everything's good, throw some artists in there, discuss some executive plays for the business, and it's on its own. Dimock, the fashion brand, I'm in it day to day. So it's nice to have that too. It brings me back to when I was starting up businesses, and gives me that sense of if it doesn't work, I'm just gonna lose a lot of money, so I have to focus into my own business again. So it's that's my main platform right now.
Yeah. which is sort of takes back to what it was 1996, 1997. Dimock, the label, was started when you were also making T-shirts. And you want to give everyone just like a little brief history of how you like transitioned to actually becoming a DJ and doing it at that time where that's actually wasn't the starting point, right?
Right. Yeah. Because so when I was in high school and when I started my label in college, I was in bands.
Yep.
And I was in punk bands, and we were playing in small rooms where it'd be like sometimes 5 people to 50 people tops, and 50 people is like me playing at a festival now, we get paid at the end of the day. You get paid like $20 to $50, and you obviously do it for the love, you like slave over your passion, not for the dollar, but just to get the music out there, and I guess. I'm in a different space now, but the thought process is very integral in the way I think about my music now, and I think that's what keeps me going and doing over 200 shows a year, and constantly making music, is that as long as I know that I love what I do, I can continue to really put 100% of my DNA and my work ethic and all the above, because now, the money will come, and it has come, and if that becomes a driving force, then I feel like for me, I will get jaded, or I will lose that X factor that has brought me my career to this point.
Well,
so now I'll talk about the transition.
Well, no, I was going to say, it's kind of why I asked that, because in 2012 was the first year that Guinness named you the most travel artist, and that year you only did, I was like 150 shows or 160 shows or something, right?
Well, the truth,
keep going up.
Yeah, the truth is, 2012.
We're a data company, so we want the real data on what the Guinness numbers were.
Okay, so the truth is, in 2012, I actually clocked over 300 shows. So, but they could only, because they had to adjudicate off one site, Bands in Town, and Bands in Town only registered 168 shows. So we just had to agree, because they're like, either we take this number or you're just not going to get the award. And obviously I went over that, but what am I going to do?
Have they updated? That was 2012. Have they updated that award each year as you continue to break it?
Yeah, we just never went back to that. We're like, we got it, we're good,
Yeah.
But now I'm at like a comfortable number of like 220, 240 shows.
Yeah, that's comfortable. Most people don't work 220 days a year. And
I'm sure you guys probably travel and work over 200 days a year, so same kind of thing. But I'm lucky, because I'm part of the 0.001 percentile where I get to do what I truly love to do, and make money from that. And that is a blessing, and that is something that's very, very rare. Most people have to work grueling jobs to find time and make money so they can do what they love to do. And I'm in this position where, this is what I make my money off this, so, and I make a living off this, a healthy living off this. So it's been incredible. It's an incredible journey for me.
Yeah. Well, but it still feels like it's pretty early in that journey, is that now you're getting involved in so many other startups, being an investor in StockX, but also being, part owner of Vision, of, the list is pretty long. I wish I actually had it all in front of me in terms of Burton and Bel Air and a lot of these other brands that you're involved in as well. But when did that start happening? When at what point did you start transitioning from the world's most traveled DJ to having all these opportunities to invest in these companies and start other brands? And then how'd you find the time in between doing 200 shows a year to be involved and help those brands?
I think a lot of it is having an incredible team, having an incredible team that is scouting those kinds of things out for me as well, and my management, they're also interested, and they became savvy in the investment world as we're growing. We're like, we're all the same age, so we're all kind of like looking outward. And you know, I think it's always leveraging my, you know, who I am, my platform, and being able to jump into conversations with people that I would never have before. You know, so I've learned how to do that in multiple ways in different fields. So when I think about outside the music space, how am I going to meet with Ray Kurzweil and talk about how we're going to be able to live forever and go to his apartment? I could do it if I'm like, I'm going to make a song about it. So I made a song called Singularity, and I asked him to be on it, and then it's like, hey, yeah, come on over to my apartment in the Bay Area. And
you also created a foundation to raise money around that as well, right?
Yes, and so in that same scope, you know, I've been able to get into investment rounds, and where it was, you know, it was difficult because it was more of a friends and family approach. But then like, hey, yeah, that DJ Steve Aoki wants to jump in on this, you know, like, so like sometimes it works, you know, sometimes it doesn't work, but you know, in those cases I've been lucky, you know, like getting in with SpaceX. That was like, because I'm such a fan of Elon Musk, and I'm a, you know, and I believe in his vision, so I've always wanted to, you know, invest in like ideas that help change the world. So I was very lucky to get in there. I was really lucky to get in early with Uber. I was lucky to get in early with Spotify, because that's definitely more of my world.
Yeah.
But some of those investments allowed me to, you know, and I made some wrong investments too, plenty. But that also gave me the excitement to, you know, jump in and get my feet wet with other things like StockX. I was excited to work with you.
It's a really great example. We're super fortunate to have a lot of high-profile investors, and we have a lot of people that approach us that want to be involved. But you were helping us for 2 years before we even did. I mean, the reason that we had you invest is because you were already helping us and already doing that. And I feel like you have a really phenomenal ability to sort of connect with people very quickly and to do things and ask nothing in return. And for me being an entrepreneur and growing this business, and that was, it was unique compared to a lot of other people. So I'm sure it wasn't luck in terms of a lot of these companies for you to get into, right?
I think, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the people-to-people, person-to-person conversations that really matter the most. You know, you can only like go so far if you don't know the person, you know? So, I mean, when we first started working together, what I thought you were doing, what I thought StockX was doing, was something that was missing in the whole space of the streetwear culture, you know? And I mean, there's obviously other things happening, but to the level that you were going with it, the vision that you guys had with it, of course, for me, it's like, I just want to work with you, you know, find a way to like put our heads together and do some fun stuff. And I think that in the end, it's like, that goes back to the same principle from when I was a kid. It's like, if you do the things you love to do, without this feeling like, I need to have this reward, I need to have some financial play in action, if you're constantly looking for that, at the end, it does take away from the purpose. Because you just got to do what you love to do with the people that you love to do it with. I think it's a very simple, generic thing to say, but I think it's a very human thing.
Yeah. That
as long as you love what you're doing, you don't need anything else in return, right? And also, the journey is just as important as the destination. So it's working on something together that's exciting, and without seeing the end goal, you know, sometimes the end goal doesn't really happen the way the exit doesn't happen. So let's just have fun while we're doing it.
Is that how you see your music career and still doing 200 plus shows a day? I mean, is there a time where you're not going to be doing 200 shows a year? You getting tired?
Yeah, there's no exit plan for me. There's no like 5-year, 10-year exit plan. It's like as if it's all in your head. So luckily I'm not like a pop singer where like once you get to a certain age, they just don't care about you. But you know, if my brain starts going in this direction, I'll probably follow where that goes, and that's okay. But I didn't expect to be where I am now, be doing what I'm doing now, that's for sure. Even maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but definitely not 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, definitely not 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, like now my life is so structured, I can see where I'll be in the next 2 years because my team has such an infrastructure to be organized where we have to think at least a year in advance.
Yep.
Just on music alone.
Yep.
And fashion, I mean, streetwear, you have to think minimum a year out, right? You have to predict and hopefully hit the mark on what people want. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do, music, fashion, food, whatever that we put out to the world, it has to hit the mark. And if it doesn't hit the mark, then you don't do well as a business,
Yep.
right? So I think one thing that I've learned as being a creator in the space is that I have to think, a little bit ahead, where when I'm making music, when I'm in the space actually creating something new, I have to think, is this going to be a little bit ahead where someone hasn't heard what I'm working on, that hasn't like touched the space yet, but it can't be too far ahead.
Yep.
If it's too far ahead, then I miss the mark. If it's like right on the dot of what people want, then I've also missed the mark because people just evolve and change. So that soft spot right in the middle is very difficult to navigate to.
Not to put you on the spot, but were there any, I don't know, like big songs that you thought were going to hit it and were just too far ahead?
I think that in my catalog, and I think this is a testament across the board. I'm not Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris, like, he hits the mark every time with his music. Like, every time he puts out a record, it sinks into the culture and people gravitate towards it and he gets his number one. I'm very much the opposite, where I'm on like, I got to make 20 songs and hopefully one hits the mark. I'm in the studio.
I think a few of them hit the mark. Like, you're doing all right, yeah.
So like for me, it's like I just need to be in the studio. Since I already have that, I manage my expectations in a way where whatever I put out to the world has, like, it's my own hit. It's my own personal hit. So I've allowed that to be for me, and my hope is that it'll hit the mark. At least 1 out of 10, 15, whatever round number. I like to play numbers games, so it's like attaining certain things. I like to hit, like, okay, I had 10 records, hopefully one of them makes it. If I don't, I have to stretch it out further. That means I have to work twice as hard.
Yeah.
So because I have that, because I've learned how to do a certain level of discipline, I think that's partially why I work hard, at least for myself, so that way I could stay relevant in the culture.
I mean, that's a really interesting way to look at it in terms of just volume, to put it out there. Because
volume is important. They always say quality, not quantity, but I'm definitely quantity with quality.
Yeah.
Because it's so saturated, especially as an industry becomes popular, it gets saturated. And the big players also lose out. The big players lose out when they think they're sitting pretty. So, I might be a big player, but I could easily lose out. Yeah. And so I just don't have, like, I don't know if it's like an anxiety or a rush to continue to put out so much so I can be part of culture, or if it's my drive or what. I don't know what that is. I still need to talk to my therapist about that kind of stuff, but like I know, like, I'm always in the studio, I'm always working on stuff, I'm always playing shows because I'm like, because I want to be, because I care about what I do at the end of the day, and I care about my work, and I want it to have an effect on people. And I think that the end result is, for me, when I really break it down, I'm lucky because I make the music and I also get to play the music and connect with people, okay?
Yeah.
So for me, when I really break it down, it's the appreciation that I get when I'm on stage, I'm looking out in the crowd, we see people singing my song or like losing their shit and they don't care about anything around them except the song themselves, and I can almost see their life experience and that connection. And that feedback is what I'm looking for. So if I see the feedback, then I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, and I want to keep doing more of it. So at the end, that is what keeps the cycle going for me, is that appreciation of the work that I put out there.
Yeah.
And I think that that ultimately makes me better at what I do.
And
as long as I see that appreciation, I need to like really see it. So I need to be in that space.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of producers that I know, a lot of producers are like, I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to tour. And like I'm like, you're missing out. Like you're missing out being on stage, seeing people like feel something. Because music at the end of the day is just a way to connect to people. It's just another way to connect to people. That's just my natural way to connect to people, is making music and then like seeing that. For other people, it could be, making shoes or whatever it might be.
So is that where a lot of the 10 new songs, they all get played at live shows, you get the feedback, and we figure out, and then the rest of us hear what the hits are a month later, 2 months later, after you've sort of like validated it in real life with your crowds, and then the rest of us hear it?
I think that like also the what that success barometer means to me is I judge it differently than what society might judge it, or what because I don't judge it based on like radio or the popular space of what success is, right? So for me, since I'm global, and luckily my music is not necessarily can survive without radio and all that. At the end of the day, if I could play shows and still command crowds in different countries around the world, then thankfully, because the way people listen to music has changed, it allows me to do that without having large institutions, judging if this is a hit or not, right?
So I think we actually ran over, and I stood up here and asked you questions all day, so I feel like they're probably going to come kick us off the stage, but thank you very much for sharing this with everyone. I hope that it was at least somewhat interesting to hear about it, and yeah, man, thanks.
Thank you.